Hey Facebook fans, welcome back. This is Bethany here with the Retrain Your Brain show, hoping to help you realize your life goals for better relationships and better finances and just a better you by hopefully helping you figure out what's wrong in the first place. Attempting to instill some common sense in these first few episodes, especially when it comes to the reality of, what's going on with yourself, as well as the reality that the world is an imperfect place, as well as us, people as a whole. People are imperfect people. I really appreciated the speech. Love Chris Pratt, especially the part in particular where it's like, you're imperfect. Anyone who's told you you're perfect is wrong. There's only been one perfect person on this planet, and that was Jesus Christ. So I'm just adding that part in because he didn't say that, but he definitely promoted the fact God is real, prayer life is good for you, and love that speech by Chris Pratt. But particularly related to this was the fact that there is no perfect people. The reality is the world is full of imperfect people, and no one's ever going to get it right. There's the saying that, the only person's opinion that you will agree with 100% of the time is your own. And you know what? Those of us who are even more pragmatic, like myself, there are times when I realize that I don't agree with my opinion, and that's when you change. When you realize that there's something different, or you get more input. So today, in particular, I wanted to focus on the difference between sympathy and empathy, and how, especially empathy in particular, there's been a rallying cry, for more empathy. The problem is when you overdo it, is when you get over emotions. And when you get over emotions, that often causes a problem. When you over emote, when you're so into something that you cannot rationally deal with it. Right now, the biggest thing that just everyone is going batshit crazy over is the immigration issues, particularly pertaining to family separation. And 99% of people I know agree that this is an issue. But if you let everything drive you nuts, and if you let it get to a point where you're in such an emotional state over it, that leaves no room to talk. People can't talk when they're over emotional. That's why they talk about, when you're angry, go and take a breather and then go and talk to the person or thing or whatever and deal with the thing that's making you angry. For me, I know I actually feel better after I sleep, because it brings my head back down and lets me actually connect to what I'm trying to deal with. So check your emotions, and there's a place and a time for empathy. I often get a lot of people who talk to me because I can empathize very, very easily with things, and living with the fact that I can do that. I've also recognized when it's okay to just be sympathetic. Sympathetic involves a lot less emotion, allows clarity in seeing, okay, yes, this is wrong, okay? Full enforcement of this law that's been in place for a long time, going all the way back, the 20 years in the making, to there was, nice circuit rulings just back in 2016. And now they're fully enforcing this law that all my rational people, everyone I know who cares about families, who are rational, smart people, all agree it's a bad law. But the over emotional of it is what's going to kill any way of coming up with a viable solution. That frankly, it is what it is, but we've got to bring our heads down into the world of reality and the world of being rational, and out of being over emotional in order to get anything done, and actually start thinking of solutions and the way we can help these people without, having to separate them anymore. So anyway, that's just an example. I mean, other examples of people who are over emotional and over empathetic can be, a simple example is hoarding. People who are hoarding are applying emotional attachment to things to such an unhealthy level that just piles up and piles up and piles up, and they can't let anything go. It's a physical manifestation of what over emoting will do to you. And when these things happen, they kill relationships. They can hurt you at work. I'm going to share a personal story here of my own fight with being over emotional, over sympathetic, and trying not to take things personal, but sometimes it's really hard not to do. But just in the simple terms that someone can imagine is if you think of a hoarder and just being overly attached to things, they lose their family members. They can't actually have people over anymore because they're embarrassed of their hoarding. It's a physical manifestation of an emotional issue that allows these things to build up. And that's kind of what I see happening here is there's been such a buildup of this issue and that issue, gun control and the UN and, pick your cross. I mean, there's so many things out there that have just been building up one on top of the other that we're seeing this huge frenzy go on now with this immigration issue. And not saying that it's not, that it is fine to feel that something is wrong and something needs to be done. That's okay to feel that initially, because that's how change happens. We've spoken that we do not agree with these policies, but you've got to choose the point though when you start coming back down in order to have a truly logical, reasonable conversation about what would be acceptable fixes, other than just letting these people go into the population when they've already come through a dangerous journey. They're vulnerable people. We want to stop that and make it so they're not so vulnerable, find a solution. So, I mean, this is what I mean. It's just the hoard, an example is, something you can think in your mind is, like I said, like a hoarder, where you over attach emotion until it just builds up. So you can't do anything, you can't move around, you can't think, you can't deal, you don't see people anymore because you're embarrassed because your head is just so cluttered. Or like I said, in the case of a hoarder, you literally can't have anyone in your house because it's dangerous. People can be dangerous when they're over emotional. So, I've got self-professed friends that no matter what Trump does, he's always right. And I've got friends that no matter what Trump does, he will always be wrong. And those are, again, examples of more negative emotional attachments to what is a very temporary situation, depending on what side you're on. I mean, either way, it's going to be shitty. When you overly emote and overly attach to things and can't come down to the more sympathetic and rational levels. And the way I experienced this in my own life was, my first couple of years of my career was awesome. I had a great boss, had a great project, I was learning a lot, I was a rock star, and they let me just do my job. My learning curve was through the roof. Well, the next project I went to, I ended up with a micromanager. And this micromanager just knew how to push my buttons I really didn't even know I had. And this guy put so much pressure on me and so many nitpicky things. I was going and double checking with the assistant project manager that my ideas weren't completely nutso, that I wasn't a complete failure, before going and presenting to the project manager knowing I was going to get shut down and he was going to tell me what to do anyway, but I was always one to bring a plan with me. And I mean, this guy would be so berating, like he just make you feel like an absolute idiot. And that really just killed my confidence. I was stressed out. And with all of this stress, it builds and builds and builds to a point where I was a shitty person myself. I couldn't get along with anybody. I was stressed out all the time. It really, really hurt a lot of my relationships, and limited a lot of things that I could do, because I really, truly care about people. But when you're in a situation where you're just in this high emotional state and can't get out of it, bad things happen. And so, I didn't ultimately leave that company because of that, but I did. Finally, I went to another job where I got away from that project manager, and it started getting better, but then I had other people kind of digging at me. And again, that project came down, but it just went right back up because I just had no support. And this is coming back to mental health, and I think this society is really starting to see the importance of taking care of your brain and learning what those things can be. There's exercise and there's massages and there's this or that, but I think people need to really start thinking about, doing things more like meditation, and being okay with therapy, having someone that's not part of your social circle or your family or your job that you can go and talk to through these things and really learn what's out there to help deal with situations like what I was in, where it was just constant. It was just driving me crazy, especially as an empath, that somebody else's energy really can affect mine. So at least I've had a lot of training on how to not let other people's energy affect mine. So I do have to be more guarded, and I do have to be more choosy of the spaces that I'm in, because I can pick them out even over the internet. I can tell a creep right away from someone who's fine. I've got amazing instincts, and has saved myself and some of my friends from bad situations, just because I've got an amazing radar and an internal warning system, which I give credit to that, because I do believe it's God protecting me from bad situations, even though I still obviously managed to get myself in them, but have managed to stay away from most. But you got to be guarded, because over emoting, it ruins you, it ruins your heart. And eventually that will start affecting your relationships. I know a lot of people who unfriend people because they disagree, and that's because they're over emotional about the issues, and they're not willing to talk about it rationally and in a functional conversation. I feel like most of us actually do have the same goals. Most of us do want to fix it, but when you present someone with like a line, which is, I'd like to fix it, but we can't do this piece, you can't go all the way the other person's direction, they shut down because they get emotional about it. Rachel Maddow crying on TV, I get it. I'm not going to call it fake. I don't think it was. But considering her industry, they're supposed to be the level-headed ones. They're supposed to be the ones who can give us the information and be rational about it, and they're not. Again, over-emotional. Our politicians are doing it. Both sides. It does not instill confidence in somebody when they're over-emotional. When I'm at work, the people who are praised are the ones who can stay level-headed in a crisis. When something goes wrong, the person you go to is the person who won't freak out. That I loved going to a couple of my managers that I used to have on my projects. If I made a mistake, I did not fear going to them, because again, they realize people are imperfect. Shit's gonna happen. we just need to deal with this. Those were my favorite clients as well. I had several of those clients that we worked so well and got through so many issues smoothly and evenly because no one freaked out. So maybe I've just had a lot more training maybe to stay out of that trap. But that's something that everyone should work on, because this is also just a professional issue. If you're over emotional and tend to swing back and forth, and people can't guarantee what you're going to be like, that makes you inconsistent and therefore untrustworthy. You know, I don't want people to not be able to approach me because they never know if I'm just going to fly off the handle, which was a problem of mine for many years, because I didn't understand this part of myself, of being so susceptible to others' emotions. You know, if I'm in a high stress environment, it makes me high stress, and it makes it very, very hard to control emotion. And yeah, no, I get it. I wouldn't want to be around it either, you know? It was a crappy time. You know, I ruined relationships over it. I lost a boyfriend or two. You know, you've got to learn, you know, like they said, you can't control everything that the world is doing. You can't control yourself. And I myself have done a lot of work to get there. In the most recent things, again, like I've talked about in the last couple of times, is, you know, journaling in such a way that I use my diary to check in with what I'm doing. And I'm doing yoga. At least I'm trying it. I definitely need to be more consistent, and meditation. You know, I got the Headspace app to learn how to meditate just a few minutes a day. Again, I love the saying that if you can't find 10 to 20 minutes a day because you think you're too busy to meditate or pray or whatever you want to do at that time, that quiet time, then you should do it for an hour. Again, I forget who that coins to, you know, the Dalai Lama or someone of that, I know it's somewhere of that caliber. But do what you gotta do to bring your head to a level even spot. You know, you can have your initial outrage, you can have your initial, this is bad, as long as you can then bring it back down. Because bringing it down, slowing down, will allow you to rationally think about things. You know, we can't say, we gotta change something. Well, what's that something? How do you want it to change? You know, you've got to be rational about it. There is a line of how far something can be changed. But maybe there's other compromises that can be made. You know, maybe there's a program you can support that can, you know, divert the people to actual border entries and help them get into a program to help them find a job on their way in, so they're not having to, you know, lie about seeking asylum so much, you know, because most of them are just coming for work. You know, they're sending these kids over because of the DACA program, because it's, you know, catch and release, and then they can just disappear. You know, and it's a very dangerous journey. Like, these kids are being assaulted physically, mentally, sexually. I mean, a lot of these kids are not coming over unscathed. These kids, these families that are making this very dangerous journey. You know, so we got to think of a society like, okay, yes, we want to go back to our roots, being able to help these people, you know, aside from just, again, having them lie about trying to claim asylum. But maybe we can think of a better solution that gets them to real border entries. It makes it safer for them to do so. You know, just again, these are you start thinking about these things rationally, and then people can start coming up with a solution and banding together and making something really happen, and working with already established charities and civil rights groups who might be able to help springboard, you know, an idea that could actually be, you know, useful. So this just an example. It's just because it's the most recent example. It's what's on everybody's mind right now. And the thing that I'm not sure I've seen, you know, this kind of frenzy last this long. And I think it's because of a buildup over time of many different items that have come up. Again, you know, just between, you know, what did I write down here? I was writing down, you know, picking your cross, you know, gun control, again, the UN and everything that's going on around that, you know, Israel versus Palestine, or, you know, animal abuse, or whatever your thing is that you're over emotional about it. Maybe you have a passion for it and want to actually get involved, but you still have to bring the emotional level down and the empathetic part down back into rational sympathy. And that's where problem solving can happen. We've got to care. If we don't care, no one tries to solve the problem. So I think, you know, that's okay. Caring and being sympathetic. But if you're over emoting and just building garbage in your head to where you can't see straight, that's what you got to get away from. And like I said, I've had lots of training. Please, if you need more tips, comment, message me. I am happy to help you see through if you actually want to deal with it. I mean, I've got people that don't, you know, they're just like, I hate Trump. He'll never do anything right. And that's just the way it is. Okay. That's your prerogative. You know, you want to believe that. You want to have that limiting belief in your head. That's completely yours. Same thing for those who are like, you know, Trump can't do anything wrong. I'm like, come on, the guy is a pig. There's no doubt about this, you know, like, let's get real here. There have been good things, there have been bad things. But it's that ability to realize that's where the rationality lives. One side or the other is not rational. So I hope you found something in this useful. Again, please comment or ask any questions. I'm gonna leave the, you know, face your reality and face the world's reality here in a maybe one more episode, and then move on to getting people on the show and talk about, you know, things that they did that has inspired them and got them out of their own way, and therefore improving their relationships, their finances, their, you know, their spiritual life or their health or whatever it was. You know, I'm going to be reaching out to people and having them share their story, so I'm not just a talking head at you all the time. As fun as I've actually found this, and I'm getting more and more comfortable with it, I think it's more fun with people. So please interact, and you guys can find all recorded shows. I'm posting these to the group. There's a group, the Retrain Your Brain Show, as well as at author Bethany Carter, all here on Facebook, and I will be posting this stuff to YouTube here very soon. Maybe I'll even get a second device going so I can stream to both, because evidently Facebook suppresses things that are shared and streamed through YouTube versus and vice versa, because they kind of do compete in the spaces. So I get it. Again, that's being rational. You know, I'm not going to get upset about it. It just is what it is. And someone made the suggestion, like, just use 2 different devices and make both platforms happy. So look for me there, and thank you for watching, and again, looking forward to feedback, good, bad, the ugly. Give it a whirl. We'll talk to you later. Bye.